Well, good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to see you all. This gathering always draws together an eclectic crowd. There are figures here from the arts academia, charity, politics, media, finance, business and dance music, all drawn together by the idea of championing British contrarians. I would like to begin by thanking Alon for hosting us in his beautiful, exquisite gallery. He's a leader in Impressionist, contemporary and modern art, placing museum-quality works in private collections worldwide. It is wonderful to be surrounded by these photographs of The Greatest by Chris Smith. Now, I'm named after Muhammad Ali. Now, I really am. It's not a joke. I am actually named after him. My aunt was a fan and struck an agreement with my mother, which was that if he secured victory in the Rumble in the Jungle against George Foreman on the 30th of October 1974, I would be named after him. He won the fight on the 30th of October and I was born the very next day. Alan, thank you for your generosity in hosting us here, and to your team led by Ben Springett for their consummate professionalism in making everything happen. Now, they say you get by with a little help from your friends, so I understand Lucy Beresford, the highly acclaimed psychotherapist and podcaster, for comparing this evening. Also, Ellie for taking the photos, Ollie for managing the AV, James for doing the videos, and Irina on the door. I'm also delighted that we are joined by the seasoned political broadcaster and journalist Adam Bolton, always at the top of his game and never afraid to take on the powerful. Let's take a look. Good for getting the better of Alistair Campbell there. My 5-year-old niece is a fan of the street artist Banksy. So over the summer, like every good uncle, I took her and her siblings to visit the exhibition here in London. As we meandered through the works, I looked up and noticed a quote emblazoned on the wall. "The greatest crimes in the world are not committed by people breaking the rules, but by people following the rules." It made me think. It's not always pretty, but here in Britain, we are free to speak our minds. That privilege, the ability to say what you think, indeed the ability to say anything at all, is not one enjoyed in many other parts of the world. In August, the Taliban issued a diktat which deems women's voices to be potential instruments of vice and bans them from singing or reading aloud in public. Jimmy Lai, the pro-democracy advocate who opposed the introduction of Hong Kong's national security law, which silences dissent, is now languishing in solitary confinement in a prison, aged 77. Despite us having no restrictions on expressing our views here, so few people speak up when it really matters. I'm not talking about the keyboard warriors spouting off on social media under the anonymity of pseudonyms, or columnists who monetize their confected outrage. I am referring to those who stand up for what they believe when the stakes are high and the personal risk is great. Individuals like the inaugural winner of the Contrarian Prize, Michael Woodford, who is here this evening, who was summarily fired as CEO of the Japanese behemoth Olympus for trying to investigate a $1.7 billion fraud within his own company. He was forced to flee Tokyo, fearing for his life. I set up the Contrarian Prize in 2012 because I was fed up with obsequious, spineless people securing advancement while those who took a stand got shafted. We had witnessed the parliamentary expenses scandal, a police cover-up over the deaths of over 90 people at Hillsborough's football stadium, and the systematic abuse of children by Jimmy Savile. Why had no one spoken up? Now, over a decade since the Contrarian Prize was first established, wrongdoing and cover-up is endemic in our institutions and as inevitable as death and taxes. The post office scandal and the Grenfell Tower tragedy are two cases in point. The former saw 900 sub-postmasters prosecuted for stealing because of an errant computer system, which resulted in names sullied, families destroyed, careers ruined, and lives lost. An inquiry into the latter revealed a string of failures across both government and the private sector, resulting in a tower block becoming a death trap for 72 people. In both cases, people must have known what was going on, but they stayed stum. For the first time in the history of the Contrarian Prize, all 5 shortlisted nominees are whistleblowers. It's sobering. Not only do they lay bare the Kafkaesque nature of some of our leading institutions in this country, they also illustrate something profound. When they came to a fork in the road, they could not be silenced or bought off because their conscience was more important than their career. They are contrarians, not of choice, but of necessity. In that sense, they are different from those individuals who challenge the prevailing orthodoxy because they're driven by an idea, a cause, an ideology. Martin Luther, who in 1517 condemned the practice of the Catholic Church being paid for by its parishioners for the redemption of their sins before cash for questions was even a thing. And advance the Protestant Reformation is a good example. So is Millicent Fawcett, who advocated the rights of women's suffrage, the cause of that, and said, "I cannot say I became a suffragist, I always was one." This prize has over the years recognized both types, those who are born contrarian and those who have contrarianism thrust upon them. Going against the grain on grounds of principle is becoming increasingly difficult, because in an ever more polarized world, it's quite difficult to work out whether grain actually is. The pro-European former Conservative cabinet minister, David Gauke, has become contrarian not through choice, but as a result of his former party moving so radically in the opposite direction that he no longer feels comfortable in it and is now advising the Labour government. Leftist feminists like Germaine Greer and J.K. Rowling are now dismissed as pariahs by their erstwhile compatriots for succumbing to dangerous right-wing ideology because of their stance on trans women being prevented from entering female-only spaces. A torrent of tribalism exacerbated by social media has now gripped us, where feeding the interests of the baying mob overrides the ability to express an opinion others find objectionable. In this new world, groupthink has squashed individual reason. Positions are advanced on the basis of emotion, not evidence. Ideas are secondary to identity. Civility has given way to downright rudeness. Self-righteousness supersedes empathy. And emotional safety is more important than expanding your mind. The Contrarian Prize was established to recognise individuals in British public life that rail against such nonsense. Nominations come from the public via the website for British public figures that demonstrate 4 criteria: independence of thought, courage and conviction in their actions, sacrifice for their beliefs, and they should have introduced new ideas into the public realm or had an impact on the public debate. There are no corporates or philanthropic foundations behind this prize. The costs are funded by a handful of individuals, including myself, which is in keeping with the ethos of the prize maintaining its independence. The winner of the prize is invited to deliver the Contrarian Prize lecture, which provides a platform to engage in public conversation and debate. The prize itself is represented by the iconic sculpture by Mauro Peruccetti, one of the leading pop artists in the world, the 3 politicians, the one who does not see, the one who does not hear, and the one who does not speak. Contrarians do exactly the opposite, because they could not live with themselves if they didn't. So hail the awkward Scot, who eschew personal comfort to take a stand. Thank heavens for them. The greatest crimes in the world are not committed by people breaking the rules, but by people following the rules. Banksy was right. Thank you.